It is Beyond the Box Score 2.0 version. The boys are back.
Little blast from the past,
Star-spangled banter. Connor, you go first.
This is going to sound completely crazy.
Win me a few more games before you start dancing. That's all I ask.
That is the difference between being good and being great.
How about that segue right there, baby?
Forward bounce, just get it out of here.
You like that?
And they let the team down on Sunday. Last call.
Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Box Score. Connor Priester, Cole Johnson. It's December 1st. We are 1 month away, Connor, from getting out of this horrendous 2020 year. You know, we're almost there. Okay.
But it's like, what's 2021 going to bring, Cole? You know what's going to bring?
I don't know. But we got to get out of this one first. But at least we're here. We're here talking, Beyond the Box Score. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook, where we go live here every Tuesday and Friday, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Beyond the Box Score, where our recorded shows will be posted the night of. But a big day here at Beyond the Box Score, packed full show, and we have a special guest joining us. Mr. Kyle Powell will be on here shortly with us to talk some football. But Connor, another big week in the NFL, Week 12. We're getting to the end of that season.
Yeah, getting in the nitty gritty, and 2021 probably going to bring a team well below 500 into the playoffs. And I got to tell you, I am super excited for this home stretch. I don't think I've ever been more excited for some very subpar football. But that's something that it's going to bring. But we're going to open it up, a little Star-Spangled Banter, as we always do, our opening segment. I'm going to stick with kind of what we saw here in Buffalo this past weekend. I'm sticking with Anthony Lynn, and I'm calling him out right now. I know it's already been highly talked about, towards the end of Sunday and even Monday with the whole week in review shows that, everyone does on Monday, Good Morning Football, blah, 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 blah. But I don't see Anthony Lynn having a head coaching job, at least with LA after this season. It's honestly crazy. We've talked about the Chargers before. They're one of those weird teams where you look at the buildup of their roster. They're pretty, I wouldn't say deep, but, they have a lot of good talent at some of the positions that you need elite level talent. Like Joey Bosa absolutely tore up the Bills. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later when we talk about, or when I talk about the Bills in our Homer segment. But, we always kind of talk about, like, how is this Chargers team bad with the makeup of their roster? And the answer is super simple to me now after seeing what happened, Bills versus Chargers on Sunday. They keep losing these one possession games. And that answer is Anthony Lynn. Disciple of Rex Ryan. If you suffered through the Rex Ryan era in Buffalo, you knew how bad Rex Ryan was at clock management. You knew how bad he was kind of in pressure situations. And Anthony Lynn is just basically the apple that fell from that tree as well. He is brutal under pressure. I'm going to get into it in a second. But the answer to me is simple. It's Anthony Lynn. The guy can't coach under pressure. And don't get me wrong, I love the dude as a person. He was in Buffalo. I thought he did a decent job here, but then going over to LA, maybe it was, that good opportunity for him to change the scenery, really establish himself as a head coach in this league. But, it's just, he's fallen flat on his face. So I'm going to get into it now. Just the usage of the timeouts. All right. Timeout number 1 came with 10 minutes and 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter prior to a 27-yard field goal. So we saw there was a little bit of miscommunication. I remember they showed shots of him pacing back and forth on the sideline, what personnel he wanted on the field goal unit or not. But still, even if you're going to call a timeout, think about what you don't have to do instead. Instead of taking that penalty, or instead of taking that timeout, take the penalty. It goes from a 27-yard to a 32-yarder. And granted, Michael Badgley has been very hit or miss this year. Very, very shaky kicker. But so a 32-yard field goal should be an easy make. So it's like, why are you going to waste the timeout, especially when you're down in the game? Timeout 2 came with 3:45 left in the fourth on third down. This is where I would maybe use my first, but I don't know. With the situation, already having wasted one timeout, I wouldn't have used my second here. And then timeout number 3 came with 3:31 left prior to a fourth down. This is where I would have started taking my timeouts, is right here, prior to a fourth down. But again, I wouldn't have used a single timeout until you stop the Bills on third down. You have the 2-minute warning on your side. Then we fast forward. You get a prayer answered with a Hail Mary for the second week in a row. And like that just shot me right in the heart, because it's like, come on, what do we learn? What do we learn, Buffalo? And then they follow that up with a run play that took 35 seconds off the clock. which you spiked the ball right on the spot, shaves off a couple more seconds. Could have spiked one for a touchdown, spike go for a field goal, try the onside kick. Last play of the game, Buffalo calls a timeout. Anthony Lynn threw his field goal unit onto the field with 3 seconds left. If you kick a field goal and make it, time expires and you lose by 7. What are we even thinking? Like, why is there even a thought of throwing your field goal unit onto the field? That should never even enter your brain. It made no sense to me. And then the final play is a check out of maybe what would have been a shotgun run, maybe into a QB sneak because they lined up in the shotgun. Justin Herbert goes under center, goes for a QB sneak, but the offensive line dropped into pass pro. It was one of the most embarrassing endings to a football game I've ever seen. It just shows that he can't handle pressure, and it's going to translate to his players on the field as well. So I don't see Anthony Lynn taking the reins anymore in LA after this season. It's been brutal for them, and they have a ton of talent. I think Justin Herbert is going to be a problem in this league. He didn't have the best of days, but I didn't think he was going to have a great day because the Buffalo secondary coming off of a bye, I thought they're going to do a little bit better job. And also, they've been one of the better defenses as of late. Ever since they got off to a really shaky start, they've been one of the better defensive as of late. And I didn't think Herbert was going to have a great day, but he had some seeds, but then he made a couple mistakes where it made him look like a rookie, but I think he's going to be a problem. But Anthony Lynn out after this year.
And I agree with you there. I think at the end there, Connor, especially one of the thing you didn't mention was when the clock's running down and they got after the Hail Mary and they didn't call a timeout or even try to clock it. Bring the field goal unit on, at least make it a 7-point game and give yourselves a chance with an onside kick. But they rush down the field and then do a running play and the time runs all the way down, and then it led to what you just said. It was had it on the screen. I'm like, what is happening right now?
I'm sitting there watching the game. It's just everything that happened. It's just like, oh my God. Like when they threw the Hail Mary and complete it, it's like, oh my God. Like they're actually fighting. They actually kind of might have a chance to at least, try for the onside kick. They don't even get there. And it was literally set up perfectly for them. And it's just like, you outcoached yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why they lost.
Well, Connor Priester, the coach killer over here. He's going to call you out for the flaws, man. Can't be doing that, especially on Buffalo's turf.
Yeah.
Even though they got the win.
I've seen it too much.
All right, well, let's shift to this, Connor. After watching, I had something already planned out for this first segment. I pushed it back because I had something I saw after last night's football game, and it's something I've seen all year. I'm going to do something that not a lot of people are doing right now. There's a lot of criticism against this certain guy, this one guy, enough looks that could kill towards this guy. And I'm going to do my best to back him up. We'll see how it goes. Whatever. I know a lot of people are against it. But let me tell you a story. Ready for this? This isn't biased at all, Connor. It's September 2007. The New York Giants are 0-2. They're getting outscored 80-48 in those first 2 games. It was Dallas and Green Bay. At this point in his career, quarterback Eli Manning was in year 4. He had a record of 20-21, and he had thrown 46 interceptions in those games. That's more than 1 pick a game. Fittingly, in a city like New York where there's a lot of pressure, the media and the fans wanted to run Eli out of town. It was a done deal. People were sick of losing. They were in year 4 of their 2004 number 1 pick. They're 0-2, already slipping this year away to a very good Dallas team. That was Tony Romo, Terrell Owens, Jason Witten. They wanted Eli gone. They wanted Tom Coughlin gone. So in summary, Eli Manning in 3 years had a completion percentage of 52.9%. He threw 44 interceptions and a QB rating no higher than 54. Just not good. QBR wasn't taken into account until 2005-06 anyways. But people were impatient. Now let's take a look at Carson Wentz. This is a guy everyone's going at right now. The 2016 number 2 pick in the draft of the Philadelphia Eagles. Year 1 was rough. And no, Eli Manning took over halfway through 2004, so he had about 2.5, 3 seasons at that point. In 2016, Carson Wentz had 16 TDs, 14 picks, QBR of 49.4. It was rough. But the leap from year 1 to 2 was incredible, something we've really never seen before in a quarterback that young. He turned the Eagles around. They were one of the best teams in the league, and he had people looking at him like, We need to find more of these guys. We need more Carson Wentz's. I think teams started to look at that in the upcoming drafts. 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, a 77.2 QBR. After an 11-2 start, he goes down. He's out for the year. Nick Foles takes over, and Wentz watches his team win the Super Bowl without him. Year 3 and 4, he's thrown to lawn gnomes. He's thrown to squirrels in the yard. He's got nobody. He gets hurt again with a back injury. He comes back last year, goes 9-7 with the same lawn gnomes on the ground, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. What happened this year? I wish I could tell you. I'm not an NFL QB expert. Nobody is. What we are seeing this year is one of the strangest landslide drops in production we may have never seen before. He was a top-tier quarterback. He is down in the lower tier right now, as of right now. It's the Eagles are brutal to watch. It's not fun. You look at Wentz's stats. You can look at the Eagles' record. Go ahead. He already has his career high in picks. But here's food for thought, Connor. He's been sacked 46 times. 46, 6 times last night. Like, it's smashing a record, and there's still 5 games left. Can we realize that his leading receiver is Travis Fulgham, who only played 3 games in his career prior to this year and was a 6th-round pick out of Old Dominion? Wentz has been without 2 starting linemen. And now let's go back. In the first 4 years of Eli Manning's career, they wanted him out. The Giants were 0-2. The franchise was up in flames. You know what happened after that, Connor? Do you know?
Super Bowl, I'm going to assume.
They won 6 straight, finished the year off, get a wild card spot. They go on the road to Tampa Bay and win easy. They go on the road and beat Tony Romo in Dallas, and they beat Brett Favre in Green Bay. And then they go on to be arguably the best team of all time in the undefeated New England Patriots, while making the most memorable play in Super Bowl history, the helmet catch. Carson Wentz is in year 5 with an awful team. He hasn't finished 2 seasons due to injury, one of which he was 11-2 and well on his way to an MVP and a Super Bowl MVP. You really want to know the problem? It's pressure. We can't know what's going on in his head. We don't know what's going on in the locker room. What we do know is Carson Wentz is in Philadelphia, one of the toughest fan bases to deal with in the entire country. And you want to know what else? There's a statue of Nick Foles outside of the stadium. A statue of the quarterback who took over for his team when he was on his way to an MVP.
Is there really?
Yes, it was the Philly special. There is a statue that he has to walk in and see every single day when that was his team. That was his team, and now it's slipping away. He gets sacked 5 times a game. He has no receivers, no offensive line. You want to know what else? His team drafted a quarterback in the 2nd round in this year's draft, and it was Jalen Hurts. He's not a 2nd-round pick. Had some success in college. He's not a 2nd-round NFL quarterback. Like, the press, it's the excruciating dip in production. I can't explain it. What I'm giving you is a bunch of stats, but stats don't always tell the story. You have to have some sort of eye test. And what we've seen this year has been brutal, but you have to take other things into consideration. What you can't explain it, but what I can explain, Connor, is you see a sitting duck in a city that is calling for his head after each game, after every practice. He has no room to breathe. That's a guy who works harder than anyone on that field, but it's just not showing on the field right now. A guy who walks into the building every day to see a statue of another guy who is behind him on the depth chart heading into that year. You don't think there's immense pressure? Just put yourself in Carson Wentz's shoes for a day and let me know how it goes. I think we need to give him a little bit of a break. I know he's getting paid a lot, but this happened after he got that contract extension, and everyone's been on him. That's it. I don't know. This is just a bad Eagles team.
We're going to get more in depth with the Eagles a little bit later, but I just think it's just terrible mismanagement from the top down.
Yeah.
They're not surrounding a incredibly talented individual who is playing the most important position on the field with enough talent around him. The wide receivers aren't getting on the field quick enough, and he doesn't have enough time to throw at all. And everything is going to be put on him because that's what it's going to look like, because he's going to have to force plays to happen. Yeah. I think that's why you're seeing so many interceptions, because he's trying to play hero ball.
Yeah. You
see it a lot in Buffalo with Josh Allen. When he feels like there's too much pressure and he has to make plays, that's when he gets in trouble, when he tries to play hero ball. But I'll go a little more in depth later.
Yeah. We'll get into that in just a few moments. A few moments, we'll get into that. But let's jump in real quick, Connor, into our top storylines of the week. my homeboy and his homeboy. Man, a possible Super Bowl preview for Kansas City playing in Tampa Bay. That was crazy.
I have a fighting shot at fantasy playoffs because of Tyreek Hill. Like 61 points for me. Yeah, that was incredible. It was 269 receiving yards and probably had 230 of them in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was unreal.
3 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, they're the best quarterback wide receiver duo in all of football, and it's not even close. I think maybe the only other ones that can even come close is maybe
Aaron Rodgers.
DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But except for that, I mean, when you're that fast and you have a guy that can just absolutely sling it, like that's literally what their whole team is. They surround Patrick Mahomes with guys who can get down the field quick. It's something that Carson Wentz needs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their whole entire wide receiver core. I mean, maybe with the exception of Sammy Watkins, he's not as fast as what he probably used to be. But I mean, you got Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill are probably 2 of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL. Anyway, and that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a possible. I mentioned it. That Super Bowl's in Tampa Bay. That could have been them getting used to that Tampa Bay turf over there for the Kansas City if they can run through the AFC. Speaking of the AFC, game in Denver, no quarterbacks on the roster, Connor. All 3 of their active quarterbacks put on the COVID list. The Saints go in there and just dominate.
Yeah, listen, I've been big on the Saints and Taysom Hill because I knew Taysom Hill would be able to go out there and get it done, but I didn't think that they'd be able to go out there and get it done like that. They kind of struggled a little bit early. I mean, it was an absolute snoozer through the first quarter and a half, and the Saints really took off in the second half. Taysom Hill really didn't throw the ball yet. Fun fact, Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie on the Buffalo Bills have more passing touchdowns than Taysom Hill this year. Taysom Hill has 0. Fun fact.
Runner. He's a runner at heart, Connor.
Yeah, hey, but he showed a little bit of signs of life where he could actually throw the ball a little bit. So that was a little intriguing. So
he can sling.
Still no timetable yet, I believe, for Drew Brees' return. So we might be seeing a lot more of Taysom Hill.
We might. Jumping over to the NFC, Connor, NFC West gets more interesting. 49ers stay afloat by beating the Rams for the second time this year. The Cardinals fall again in New England, and Seattle with the win last night. We got to look at that Week 16 matchup that Seattle and LA Rams might be for the division.
Yeah, a lot of those games, too, were really surprising. I wasn't expecting Seattle and LA to be as low scoring as it was. That one almost kind of became a little bit of a snooze fest at some points too. But Seattle went out there, got it done. The 49ers, I mean, I'm sure I would have to go back and look, but I'm sure all the experts probably picked the 49ers to take a loss. I mean, including, myself. I thought they were going to lose as well. But they got it done, and that was a little shocking. I'll get into it a little bit. But I think the real surpriser one here is the Cardinals. I mean, going up against a favorable matchup with New England, but again, it's almost like you never want to count out New England because Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And I know you're real big on that as well. That's your firm belief right there is Bill Belichick. But that's an important game to me if I'm Arizona. Like that's a game that's must win, especially with Seattle kind of finding its groove again a little bit ever since that loss to Buff. But it's NFC West is just going to be, or West, excuse me, is just going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Not as exciting as the NFC East.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We'll get to that again in a minute. But yeah, 49ers, very resilient group, dealt with all year long. Cardinals got to bounce back. Seattle, each and every week, is looking more like a Super Bowl team. Lastly, Connor, Vegas, they got the benefit of the doubt from everyone after the tough game they put up against Kansas City. They just get completely destroyed in Atlanta.
Yeah, and that was another one too. Like no one ever expected that. I've been very high in Oakland. I don't know if you've been a little high, but you haven't been as high as me. But I love the way that Derek Carr was playing. I love the emergence of Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow. All the wide receivers over there getting it done, and the defense has been the one thing that I've been super high on. They've been playing very well, and they just dropped an absolute egg on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And especially, too, we talked about it. It looked even more favorable because Todd Gurley was out. But Matt Ryan went out there, got it done, and they were just absolutely bamboozled on Sunday.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that they got to figure it out. If that happens again, this team's not making the playoffs. They were right there. Things are slipping away. And just a real recap before we make the call to the pen, Connor. Recap of your Priesters picks. How'd you do?
Went 8-4. Could have been better. Could have been a lot worse. But the ones are just the ones that were kind of surprisers. I mean, I missed on the Rams, Raiders, Cardinals, and the Panthers. But the Panthers and Vikings, that was a game that Carolina was kind of. I wouldn't necessarily say in the driver's seat because the defense coming up with two defensive touchdowns really kind of carried the weight of the points for the majority of the game. But then Kirk Cousins really got it done for the Vikings, especially with Dalvin Cook not having a spectacular day. I know he had a lingering injury towards the later stages of that game as well, but Kirk Cousins really kind of stepped up when his team needed him. And, Kirk Cousins gets a lot of crap sometimes, but, he still can be capable of throwing the football.
He can, I guess so. We'll jump to this real quick. Outside of Priesters picks, we got now a new segment, Cole's Take 5, taking the best 5 lines I'm most confident in. I hit on 3 out of 5. I got Jacksonville. I took them plus 2.5 or plus 7.5 at Cleveland. They were a 2-point conversion away from going to overtime. They covered. I took Carolina plus 2.5 of Minnesota. We just talked about that. Carolina wins that game if they whiff on a game-winning field goal, and then Seattle covers last night barely after that Hail Mary that somehow got caught by Richard Rodgers. They still covered with a 6-point win over Philadelphia. So we had a decent week in our picks, and not a bad week. But let's shift to this, Connor, as we are going to make the Beyond the Box Score call to the pen. As we wait on here for Kyle Powell. We have some bird chat with one of the original Beyond the Box Score pioneers, and actually soon to be dad, Kyle Powell. I'm just waiting to see if he's on here. Kyle, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we see your face? Do you have your camera?
I hope so.
Yeah, there he is. So Kyle Powell, one of the original BTBS members. How's it going? I mean, you got big things in your life happening this year.
I do have big things in my life. Yeah, little one on the way. We're able to tell the parents over Thanksgiving. It was good. It was a little sign of light in this pretty forgettable year.
Yeah. How was that? When you made the announcement to the family, how'd they take it?
Oh, it was fantastic. We had my sister take the video. We got all the reactions. It was awesome.
Good stuff.
Very exciting.
So Connor and I are here with you. Thanks for joining us, Kyle. I mean, first of all, my first segment was trying to do as best as I could to back up Carson Wentz a little bit, and what I could and what's happening in Philadelphia this year. What's your take on what's happening in Philadelphia this year as an Eagles fan?
It's just years and years of a trickle down of what I consider the best and worst thing to happen to the city all in one. The best thing that could have ever happened to Philadelphia was them getting that Super Bowl championship. The worst thing that could have happened to that city was winning that championship with Nick Foles after the season that Carson Wentz produced. So you hit that nail on the head. I was watching on Facebook. It's been a slow type of snowball effect since that day with Philly special outside of the link, that statue, Nick Foles enshrined forever. I mean, find me a city that doesn't love their folk heroes more than Philadelphia. I mean, people live and die by Rocky still, and he's looked like you know what for about 30 years. But yeah, I mean, to put together the MVP season he had in year 2, again, you hit the nail right on the head. That is, you're talking production and an incline of a career like this. That's what it looked like. You know, you give him the big money, expectations are high, and then bam, the ACL. Well, the money came after that, but the ACL injury against the Rams, and what was an 11-2 team, you win that game. Hope was low. You know, Nick Foles on his second stint, he'd been with about, it feels like 3 or 4 teams in between leaving Philadelphia and returning to Philadelphia. He goes through his own trials and tribulations. He's got everything under the sun going on with him off the football field. And he catches what I can now confidently say, 3 years removed, is a lot of lightning in a bottle. It was fun in the moment, but the Philadelphia fan base was very, very foolish to actually make a quarterback controversy out of Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. And there are still people that will. Nick Foles is gone. He's in Chicago. But there are still people that call for anyone and anybody to be under center other than Carson Wentz right now. And to be honest, I don't know how that guy's standing. I would absolutely crumble after years and years of going through that, losing your MVP season, having to watch the Lombardi Trophy being hoisted by your backup, still seemingly playing second fiddle to that backup come 2018. You get hurt again. Your backup wins another playoff game on a last-second 4th-and-goal stand in Atlanta. And then, yes. No, that was the start of the season. That was a double doink. That was Cody Parkey's double doink the following season, the Matt Nagy meme. And then Wentz finally gets his chance to really prove the naysayers wrong. Puts together, as you put it very nicely, another very strong season, 27-7, I believe, somewhere along those lines in 2019. And Seattle comes to town. Can't get it done. 17-9 loss. The story obviously was the quarterback. Can Carson Wentz get it done for you come January? He had his chance. I find it hard pressed to say he blew it, because in the 2019 season, there was also a lot of speculation around the receiver room. The rumor of the entire season was, who the hell leaked this thing to the media? Josina Anderson or whatever ended up being what we still believe is Alshon Jeffrey. Just turmoil all around the locker room. This guy can't catch a break. And for one of the better guys in the sport, you really hope for better. You honestly do. But yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Eagles football this year, but what I have watched has been, how do I put this lightly?
I don't know if you can.
Family show.
You just can't say enough good things. And I say that, my tongue in my cheek. I'll put it this way. I still like to have Carson Wentz's back in a lot of situations, because I know he's been dealt a pretty cruddy hand.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't had Alshon Jeffrey for the better part of 3 seasons. He had his first catch last night after finally coming back. Deshaun Jackson, that was exciting. His 2 years have been frugal and full of injuries. The Zach Ertz contract dispute. Whatever. Everybody knows the stories about the receiving room and the tight end. But I mean, to sum up the season no better, his interception, I really thought it got picked. That's how bad it was last night. The interception in the end zone. Yeah. I was watching on TV, Alexis, myself. I'm like, that ball had to have gotten tipped in the air. Nope, just
into nothing. It was
absolute pinpoint accurate pass right to the DB.
Yeah,
say no more than that. But bottom line, Carson Wentz, I don't know how he's standing. You really do wish the best for the guy, but it's really hard to climb this mountain that is the Nick Foles in Philadelphia. And he's been gone for 2 years, but that's just the way it rolls. It's unfortunate, but that's how it's been.
Yeah. Connor, got anything?
I have something, Connor, by the way.
You what?
I do have something for you.
Oh, you have something for me?
I'm stat correcting you.
What is that? What is said stat?
Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie, while they do have more passes than Taysom Hill this season, they have more passes than Taysom Hill does going back to 2016. His last touchdown pass was at BYU his senior year.
Interesting.
Wow.
What were you doing? We were roommates in 2016.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a very long time.
A very long time ago. Yeah, hey, don't hate on my guy Taysom Hill though. That's my guy. That is my
I'll hate on him. I'll hate on him only for the fact that I was only able to use him as a tight end for 1 week.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Apparently, there was a loophole where if you left him in the tight end slot, his points would still count.
I didn't take that chance. I dropped him.
Yeah, I didn't want to take that chance either. I actually started him in 2 of my leagues this week as a quarterback, having a lot of injuries.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I texted you and some of the guys last night because I haven't really watched a lot of Philly football either, and it's just it's very evident even just by watching a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, like his receivers aren't good enough or quick enough to get down the field fast enough. The offensive line is just brutal, and I think there's just a lot of, like locker room drama. I mean, what was it, like 2 weeks into the season? It was Zach Ertz coming out saying, "Oh, this team doesn't want me anymore. They'd much rather have Goddard just because of the whole contract dispute." And I understand he's not playing right now because he's been sidelined, but still, I feel like that there's just a lot of internal issues that also need to be solved. And I think everything really just comes from the top down. And they just need to figure a way that they can just surround Carson Wentz with more talent, because it's terrible for him.
Yeah, that's another thing that you hit on that I actually had forgotten about, which is ironic because it's the freshest news. Talking about everything that Carson Wentz has had to battle against, all the naysayers and everything that's been kind of put in his path every single year of his career. The latest one is what used to be a lot of drama that stayed in the locker room between the players that you could kind of hash out and figure out, players only meetings, whatever, what have you, to get through that as teammates. I believe the last week, maybe going back 2 weeks, that drama and that pressure is now coming from the front office. The latest news out of Philadelphia was that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, the general manager and the president of the team, are now putting a lot of pressure on Doug Peterson to actually get more looks at Jalen Hurts. Which, Cole, as you mentioned, I mean, you're way more in tune and you're way more in depth with the college prospects. So he wasn't worth that second round pick, huh? Now to use him as this Lamar Jackson, Taysom Hill prototype that you're trying to see what he looks like and put Carson Wentz deep on the sideline, on the slot. Like it's.
Yeah, I think that's risky. And from what I saw from Jalen Hurts in college, he has the ability to make plays, but you can, as an organization that's been struggling, you can't spend your second round pick on a guy like that when you have Carson Wentz, who we've already talked about 3 years ago was an MVP. I just don't think that's right, and that's adding to the
it's blatant disrespect is what it is.
And if you're going to give him that much money, you go and do that a year or two later. I just don't understand it, and that's why my whole point of there's just all this around. There's so much on his shoulders. Maybe that's why he can't throw the ball. He's got all his weight on his shoulders. He can't throw the football.
It could be.
He's just got too much going on, and I don't know. That's why at this point, Kyle, do you think it's more like – I was going to ask you as a follow-up, is it the organization or is it Carson Wentz?
I think the organization stems a lot of these issues, and they seem to have been handling it wrong every step of the way. It's odd because they won a Super Bowl during his contract, and they extended him. So I guess my point is moot. But what I was going to say is I was going to try and equate it to the Bills, where that 5-year window of that rookie contract is important. But the more I talk about, I tried to make the it fell apart because they've extended them and they won the Super Bowl. But still, it's a prime. It's a prime for a reason. You want to have the best team on the field at all times during the most potent years of your quarterback's life, because he makes and breaks your team. And every single step of the way, it's gotten more difficult for this cat. And I honestly, the way it's gone and the way the front office and the general manager and the head coach, Doug Peterson, I honestly was convinced I'd see almost a half's worth of Jalen Hurts last night, and I was going to rip my eyes out.
Yeah.
That's where it's gone. Like, are you really, really confident? Do you really feel that that's the best direction for this organization, to just rip the rug right out from under Carson Wentz's feet and try and move on with Jalen Hurts? That's where we're at right now.
That's.
I wouldn't want to play if I was Wentz. I wouldn't.
No.
You quite literally give your body up.
Yeah.
For this city.
He's taking
and you're playing
his career.
Yeah, you're playing exactly. You're playing second fiddle to a backup quarterback that won a Super Bowl. You have to hear about that for 2 years until he leaves town. You still hear about it every now and then. And now you're trying to get replaced by a guy who shouldn't have been drafted. You didn't have a quarterback problem. You had other issues to address on all over the field. And you took a second round flyer on a quarterback. You reached on a second round quarterback when you didn't need to fill that position. By the way, speaking of the draft, Carson Wentz is the only Pro Bowler that the Eagles have drafted since 2013.
Yep. I heard that stat last
night. You want to tell me they don't have issues all over the field? Lane Johnson and Zach Ertz were the last Pro Bowlers for the Eagles not named Carson Wentz, and that goes 7 years ago. And you want to burn a second round pick on a quarterback?
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, you could go in the direction and go and look at Green Bay and say they reached for Jordan Love and to piss Aaron Rodgers off, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He's much more seasoned a veteran who's shown he can do it than Carson Wentz, who's only in his 5th year.
Right.
It's a huge difference. But I don't know. Connor, you got any, Kyle's being at GR, what's the thing in Buffalo? Do you guys got any Buffalo beef to talk about?
Oh, I wanted to look it up real quick because we talk about, or at least I'm talking about, one of the biggest issues that he has no one to throw to. And again, I understand there's been injuries, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, I don't even know if Deshaun Jackson is even be like said that he could be kind of like a game-changing wide receiver anymore. A little bit past his prime. But 1, 2, 3, 4 picks before Jalen, or I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 picks before Jalen Hurts, Chase Claypool, a couple other picks after him, like a bunch of offensive linemen still on the board, still skill players that they could have taken shots on. Wide receiver. Like none of them big names, but still, like could have tried. Because
absolutely.
And it's just like, and this is why I'm throwing it all on management and the front office. It's like you're not doing anything to help him. If anything, you are trying to drive him out of Philadelphia, and I don't understand that. But I don't know. I'm just glad I'm not a Philly fan. That's all I got to say.
The great news is you're still only a half a game, whatever it is, with the freaking tie now behind the Giants and Washington.
How exciting.
Crazy.
I know.
I love the NFC East. Absolutely love it. It's fantastic.
It's interesting.
This is worse than like the mid 2010s NFC South, where like the Panthers.
Yeah.
Hey, 7 wins. Let's go to the playoffs. Every year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting bad at this point, but it keeps it interesting. It does. I mean, when you have a 4-7 team leading a division, I mean, whatever. It's fun for the league, I guess, not for the teams. But I was before we let you go, like what's the feeling out in I know Connor's there too, but in Buffalo right now, 8-3. What's the talks at GR going on?
Confident, quiet confidence. It's the second straight year they've reached this mark, and this year is very different. Last year, their turnover, it was a turnover-based 8-3, which you cannot rely on every single year. As frugal as defenses are in the NFL, you're seeing it now. But thankfully, Josh Allen has taken that step up, and they have weapons around him. The Stephon Diggs trade, you swing big for that. John Brown, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis in the 4th round. You want to talk about draft steals? Not even a steal, but just doing your homework at the draft and not taking Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round. Gabe Davis has been fantastic. And he's been a guy that is really his presence. You can never have too many receivers, And even though that was a product of, it wasn't a place of need for the Bills, a position of need, but they did it anyway because he was good and he was on the board. And it's good that they've had him because it's extended that offense. You can do more sets, have a little more receivers out there, different personnel plays, and it's been fantastic because John Brown hasn't exactly been the healthiest boy this year. So Gabe Davis has really had a chance to show out and play a lot with Beasley and Diggs, who's just a machine. But I think I circled my point. Oh, the 8-3. It's a lot different than last year's 8-3, as I said, because the turnover is different. And Josh Allen is taking that next step and really becoming – he's moving up the echelons of the quarterback room in the league. And I think that's fantastic. And the Bills are doing what they should be doing in this 5-year rookie contract window with Josh Allen. A la the Diggs trade. You were quiet during the deadline, but that's fine. If the right trade isn't out there, you don't want to overpay. You're confident in the team you have. I mean, people are still a little salty. I mean, Arizona was a tough pill to swallow. 9-2 would have looked fantastic, but you're still in a good position in the AFC divisional in the playoff picture, what have you. I think they have a real chance to do some damage against the Steelers. And you got another good, favorable matchup against Nick Mullins and the Niners this week, to keep yourself relevant. I mean, it's been good. Long story short, it's been good. It's a much different feel because the record was fantastic in 2019, but you relied heavily on your defense. And now you look and see it's a lot more complete of a team because the defense has struggled at times. They found their way the last 3-4 weeks. They're getting a little more turnovers. They're putting more pressure. AJ Klein's been good. Really filling in greatly for Matt Milano. And you think about Klein playing this well, Milano's back. So we'll be back. So it's a different feel, and it's a lot better of a feel. At times you still get your fans and what have you, that little go off their rocker here and there, but you're in a good position, and it's a lot better of a record than this year. I want to stop short of calling them paper tigers last year, but it wasn't a strong record at 8-3 at this point last year. This one is a lot different. You feel confident in this team that you can put up that 25 to 35 points instead of feeling like they've maxed out at 21 and you got to win every game 21-17 with a goal line stand. So it's fun.
Yeah, cool. If you want to get a taste of what it's like to be a Buffalo sports fan and tune into the radio on a Monday morning, I was listening to WGR on Monday morning. It was Sal running the Extra Point show. I think it was 4 out of the first 6 calls from callers, obviously, having to do with our Hail Mary defense. Not talking about the goods and something else that actually mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stopping the check down and Austin Eckler running wild out of little screens multiple times. But no, the Hail Mary defense that literally had no impact on the game.
Oh boy.
Honestly, Cole, that's another thing is to tell you how things are going well in Buffalo when the Extra Point show is about Hail Mary defense. If that's your problem that you want to call about on a Monday morning, you're in a pretty good position.
Yeah, that seems like a very good problem to have, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I had those days. I spent some time at GR when you were there too. I remember those calls. They were crazy. But anything else, Connor? We good?
I think we're money.
Country over there. Yeah.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly. I'm rooting for Carson and the Eagles, even though the Giants are winning the division. Let me see. But thank you so much, Kyle. You're the man. We'll definitely be talking soon, my man.
Happy to be back. Enjoy the rest of the show. I will talk to you guys soon.
All right. See you,
Thank you, Kyle.
And then, so that was Kyle Powell, one of the original BTBS pioneers. That's what Connor called him yesterday, a pioneer.
Pioneer.
Soon to be dad. Congrats to him and Alexis on that. Wanted to bring him on for some bird chat. I hope we can do that a lot. But we'll shift to this, Connor. Something we do every week, Heroes of the Week. So what do we got on your end?
Heroes of the Week. All right, even though that they helped make my picks a little bit worse, I'm going to go over to Minnesota. Chad Beebe, the son of former Buffalo Bill Don Beebe. I'm sure my grandfather, my pops will appreciate that one. Muffs a punt that set up Carolina inside their own 20. But he bounced back, caught the game-winning touchdown, the first of his career en route to his 63-yard day with 7 catches. He stepped up for Adam Thielen missing the game due to COVID concerns. It's a big game for the son of Mr. Don Beebe, Chad Beebe, getting his first career touchdown, game-winning touchdown. It's a big day. He is my hero of the week.
Good. That's a good one. He did bounce back. That was a huge play made to win that thing. I'm going to take a huge turn out of left field here, Connor. I told you this is going to be interesting. Hero. You might wonder why a guy who shows up in the stat line going 1 for 9 with 2 interceptions and a QB rating, listen to this, 0.1. This was Kendall Hinton for the Denver Broncos on Sunday. Here's why he's a hero. The kid comes off the practice squad as a wide receiver on the roster, I might add. And he plays quarterback for a team that needs him to play quarterback because all their 3 quarterbacks on their active roster decided to hang out and not wear masks, probably drink beer together, go out somewhere, being unavailable for the New Orleans game. Unbelievable. I think Dan Orlovsky said it on Get Up the other day, like, you should shame on you to Drew Lock and all the other guys who this is their chance to show something and pull out for their team. We don't know what happened. Whatever. They get put on the COVID list. All 3 of them. Unbelievable. This kid put his heart out on the field. He stepped up, did everything he could. He hasn't played quarterback since I think he played some at Wake Forest in college, but not a lot. It's not like he was a 4-year quarterback. He deserves a lot of respect. I give all the props in the world to him. I mean, if I was anyone else on that team, I owe Kendall Hinton an apology. That's all I know. So thanks for going out there. We're sorry.
Yeah, it takes a lot of stones to kind of go out there and do what he did, even though it wasn't the most successful. But I mean, just imagine how nerve-wracking that has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know Mid-Eye College wasn't Wake Forest, but I mean, just trying to put myself in his shoes. Like, if I was just like asked to randomly step up and, you know, be a center fielder for some major league team on short notice because a bunch of their guys went down with COVID, it's like,
or even worse.
I mean, I probably could, but I mean, I'd be shaking in my boots.
Or even worse, more than center field, to throw you at second base or shortstop that you started out as when you came in as a freshman.
No, we're not going to talk about my journeyman collegiate baseball career on this show, Cole. Come on now.
Cool. You played every position on the field.
Except for first base. Thanks, Josh Silva.
All right. Well, that still sounds fun. All right. Let's go. Bumper bounce. Connor, take it away.
Bounce. I will start us off. I'm gonna switch it up. I've been going player first, team second. I'm gonna go with team first. I am bumping the Tennessee Titans. Cole, we got into a little bit of a debate about Derrick Henry and the Titans going up against Indy and their tough defense, but this is their division to lose now after dominating Indy. Proves they can outmatch and outcoach almost any defense in the league because Indy is one of the best in the NFL right now, even though they kind of had a blunderish day the other day. I don't even know if that's a word. Blunder of a day on the defensive side of the ball. But the only question mark I have with this team is really just their passing game. They've surrounded Tannehill with so many weapons that it makes me want to trust him. They just got to stay healthy. The defense is going to get the job done. They're well coached. They got a great deep roster, and they're a team that can make noise in the playoffs again. They got a favorable schedule going down the rest of the way. The only teams that I see that are a threat is Green Bay, and I made the notes yesterday. I said maybe Houston if they keep playing well, but after all the stuff that they've been, the 2 suspensions, Will Fuller done for the year, I don't even see Houston being a problem anymore because who is Deshaun Watson going to throw the ball to?
Exactly. It's a problem I see with my fantasy team and Deshaun Watson. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, though. Tennessee looked dominant. I mean, this is a team that made it to the AFC title game last year. Basically have the same team back. Mike Vrabel is doing a great job over there. I'd be scared. If I was in the AFC, I'd be scared of that team. Absolutely. Who do you got for your bounce?
And I am bouncing the Indianapolis Colts. Excuse me. When your very good defense has a very bad day, and you're a good team, you're fighting for a division lead. You're known as almost like a top dog in the AFC right now. But when you're a good team, your offense picks up the slack for your bad defensive day. And to be a good team, that has to happen. That didn't happen. I don't like their offense. I don't trust their offense. That lackluster performance. It doesn't matter whose defense you're facing. If you're a good team, you find a way to kind of at least make it competitive. They weren't competitive. They fell flat on their face against Tennessee. As I mentioned, I think this is Tennessee's division to lose. They're missing Paris Campbell a little bit. They don't have enough playmakers to help out old man Rivers. He's not the same QB he used to be. And my hot take, I'd be surprised if they even make the playoffs now with how crowded the AFC playoff picture is.
Ooh. Big call. I like the bold move. Bouncing out on Phillip Rivers, the dog.
Absolutely.
You want me to give my bump and bounce on a team?
Yeah, let me get your teams. How they match up against mine.
All right. We're going to go we're going to bump on the New Orleans Saints. And here's why. I mean, it's not just because they have the best record in the NFC. It's not just because they won a 31-3 game. I mean, they're scary. The way they've been playing with a backup quarterback, that's scary. Like, you don't get that a lot. It's impressive. And I think we forget that their only 2 losses came early on in the season. They started 1-2, but that was a loss at Las Vegas when Vegas was playing really good and a shootout with Green Bay. If you get into another shootout with Green Bay in the playoffs, I'll take New Orleans. Yeah, they beat Denver by 28, who had no quarterback. But that's an easy game to fall into a trap to. I talked to you about it before. The games in Denver, it's always a trap game, I feel like, especially with a line, with the betting line. But they took care of business. Their second running back, Latavius Murray, ran for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, both of their running backs have over 500 yards. You don't get that on teams very often. That's very scary. And now they play Atlanta again next week, and you have a chance of bringing Drew Brees back against the Eagles, though at this point you might not even need him yet. Let him heal up a little bit and finish out the year. It hasn't been a great year for Drew Brees. We know that. You see the arm strength is kind of wearing off, but keep rolling with Taysom Hill. It's working. Look out for that Week 15 meeting with Kansas City. I think that's going to be fun. My bounce is going to be Arizona. I'm going out on Arizona right now. They had a couple chances to bounce back. I mean, everyone was on top of the world with them after the Hail Mary win against Buffalo, but people forget they were trailing most of that game. The Bills had a 2-touchdown lead, and now they've lost 2 straight. They got outplayed by Seattle and a brutal loss on Sunday in New England to a team I think they're much better than right now at this point in time. It's a tough schedule ahead in a division where you may have 3 teams make the playoffs, but you have to win. You have to beat a New England team. It puts a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray, who we've already seen fall to the pressure after getting MVP consideration 2 weeks ago. I mean, they have LA next weekend, followed by what aren't going to be very easy games. They have the Giants and the Redskins, the Washington football team, who are playing for a division right now, and they've been tough the last few weeks. So I'm out on Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, that one's, it's weird because I'm so high on Kyler Murray. It's almost kind of like the Lamar Jackson effect because you don't really know how to stop him, especially because he's such a great runner and he's showing how good he can be throwing the football as well. And especially with, DeAndre Hopkins, and company, it's tough to want to count him out. But again, if they weren't in the division they're in, I would argue with you on this very aggressively. But because of the division that they're in, I can understand it. But to me, I still think it might be a little too soon to bounce. But I think after this week, it's going to be make or break for them. They lose, I'm bouncing them. They're done. If they win, might bump them. Never know. It's one of those games that can really decide their season. I think. It's
a week to week league. You never know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
Before we get to other stuff, real quick, who's your bump and bounce on players? Just real quick.
So Mr. Powell, mentioned him earlier. I am bumping, and this is not a homer opinion again, I am bumping Gabriel Davis. All right. This season, he's got 22 catches, 354 yards, 4 touchdowns. But with the absence of John Brown, his workload is just going to continue to increase. We see since the start of training camp that the talent that this kid has. He's kind of a long, lengthy receiver at 6'3", pretty decent speed. He can go up, make contested catches, long arms. He can beat you over the top. He's exceptional at high point of the football. I'd be thoroughly shocked if his workload doesn't continue to see a dramatic increase without John Brown. John Brown has been one of, with the exception of Diggs, he's been just kind of a little bit more of like a safety valve as a wide receiver. Just love hitting John Brown on crossing routes. It's something that I think Gabe Davis can go out there and do just as well, and maybe a little bit more. Like I said, he can go up there, and the catch he made this weekend was spectacular. Absolutely mossed the defender. But in terms of fantasy now, this is where I kind of want to focus in on. I go out and say he'd be probably a reliable flex option in some 10 or 12 team fantasy leagues, and even a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 if you're dealing with some injury bugs leading up to a playoff push, or maybe your playoff started already. But I like him a lot, and I think that his workload is just going to continue to increase with the absence of John Brown.
Okay. We got it. Who are we bouncing?
And I am now bouncing Jerick McKinnon. And Jerick McKinnon, from a fantasy standpoint, with Mostert back, McKinnon was basically obsolete this past Sunday. It was just one game, but San Francisco clearly liked the idea of Mostert and Wilson as their tandem. Very minimal action for McKinnon. And those of you that were using him, myself included, until Mostert came back, there's really no hope for McKinnon to get any type of real action again for him to be in your starting lineup unless Mostert goes down again. So bouncing Jerick McKinnon.
Agreed on that front, Connor. I also had him on my team. Might have to get rid of him now. He's kind of a waste of space on my roster. I'm going to bump Nick Chubb. 19 carries, 144 yards, touchdown against Jacksonville. Since his return, it's a different football team. When they can run the ball with both Chubb and Hunt, it's a completely different football team. When he was not there, the Browns aren't the same because they can't rely on Baker Mayfield. He's just simply not going to get it done if they can't run the football. You can give him the ball on 1st and 10, 2nd and 12. He makes up ground. If you get a penalty, it's 1st and 15. You can still give him the ball. He's going to make up yards. Tennessee, who they're playing next week, is 16th in rushing yards. They're right in the middle of the pack. You can still throw him out there, and he's going to have another 100-yard game here maybe next week, the week after. He's just elusive and powerful. He can step around people. He can make a move, but he also loves to run people over. Very physical. I love to see that. And I'm going to bounce on Jared Goff. He was outplayed by Nick Mullins and the entire San Francisco defense. He shows inconsistency from week to week. Like he played very well against Tampa Bay, and then he comes out and plays awful against the beaten up 49ers team. He went 19 for 31, 198 yards, 2 picks, a QBR of 10.1. Just not going to get the job done. If you're going to win the division and beat out a Russell Wilson, you can't have these games. You just can't. And I mean, my luck, he'll make me eat my words, throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, kind of like Derrick Henry did last week. But I last week was more of a stretch. I was just making a bold take. I really want to bounce Jared Goff in this situation. So with that being said, Connor, those are our bumps and bounces of the week. Let's head to Homer time real quick. Bills, what do you got?
Homer time. Quick rundown. First thought, oh boy, that was not fun. Facing a team that came in very favorable matchup. But again, we talk about how the Chargers kind of have a lot of talent. It's just the record doesn't show that. It's just it should have been a lot easier than how it was. But again, Sean McDermott kind of came out and said it was going to be a different game plan. In his post-game press conferences, said that the game script and the game plan really was to really establish the run. And to me, I think it was a good idea because especially with maybe looking at like a weaker opponent, maybe they took him for granted a little bit too much, maybe thinking they can use this week as a week to really get the run game going back on track to what we think it should be, because Devin Singletary and Zach Moss really haven't produced as much as they probably should leading up to this point. But just kind of a different game plan. It was a different plan of attack. And but the run game was really good. Blocking was great up front. Focusing on the positives right now. AJ Klein had his best game as a Buffalo Bill. It wasn't just one play that stuck out as the majority of them. He looked explosive, quick, made good reads. Kyle talked about it earlier. And I mentioned earlier that the defense did a pretty good job of holding Herbert, with the exception of garbage time. Negatives, have to protect the football better. The Singletary fumble, Allen was careless at times. It'll happen. They won, but you need to limit the mistakes a little bit more. A good team will capitalize on those mistakes. And did they know that Joey Bosa was on the Chargers? Because I don't think they did it sometimes. Multiple times where they just completely missed blocking assignments on Joey Bosa, of all people, arguably one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. One of the best just getting in the backfield, disrupting plays, whether it's a pass or a run. But I think that again, we talked about earlier with Carson Wentz. I think that's why Allen felt like he needed to kind of force passes through that pick, because he had to play hero ball a little bit, because he had Bosa breathing down his neck the whole time. Another Hail Mary. To me, it's really not a huge deal. The only thing that I'd like to see is just maybe someone actually make an attempt to bat the ball down. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this too, because it's just like it happened again. It didn't change the outcome of the game. So what? But you live and you learn. 8-3 on to the Niners.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's you live and you learn. And if it were to have been a game-changing thing, then you probably start to worry. But that didn't change the game whatsoever. And I agree with you on the Allen thing, Connor. He fumbled the ball and then came out in the next possession. You texted me and said, Josh Allen just made a Daniel Jones move. He completely did. He threw a ball with a guy in his face off his back foot just into the air, and it got picked. You can't do that. But speaking of that, if we shift to the Giants here for my homer time, Daniel Jones has, for the most part, he has avoided that recently, and that's why they've won 3 straight games. The New York Giants, Connor, are winning the NFC East at 4-7. I never thought in a million years I'd be saying that this year. This was one of the years where I fully expected a 3, maybe 4 win season, and they have a chance to win 5 or 6 at least. They always make me sweat, but I mean, a win is a win in the NFC East. No doubt about that. That's all you need. It was a big game in terms of how they wanted to end the season. I think if you lose that game against Cincinnati, kind of all hope is lost. It's a tough road ahead. You're probably finishing 3-13. It would kind of put a hit on how well they've been doing, because they have Seattle next week, maybe without Daniel Jones too, followed by Arizona, Cleveland, and Baltimore. Those are going to be tough games. You finish the year out with Dallas. You never know what you're going to get with Dallas. But the positives, Wayne Gallman has been a beast. 5 straight games with a touchdown. He has completely taken over and carried the load for the lack of Saquon Barkley. He has stepped up immensely. Daniel Jones is taking care of the football, which has been a concern in his early career, and he's turning that around. Evan Ingram finally had his big game. I've been waiting on that for 3 years. He's a very athletic and fast tight end. I think they need to use him in different ways. I've seen it more in the last few weeks. Defense gets stops when they need him, especially Sunday. Cincinnati was 10 yards within field goal range. That could field goal would have won the game. They would have lost. They get a strip sack to seal it. And that's the first 3-game win streak since 2016, Connor. Fun fact. That's rough, but it's very pleasing to hear that they're turning it around. Some negatives. Daniel Jones goes down with a hamstring. We're waiting to hear back on the seriousness of it. They said there's still a small chance he plays on Sunday. I would sit him. I don't think they're going to win in Seattle regardless. I think they need to give him a week and go all out to beat Arizona and Cleveland, which I think is very doable. He tried to come out and throw a couple balls, and he just couldn't. He had to sit out the rest. They could have sealed another negative. They could have sealed it on the ground with 2 minutes left. They couldn't do it. And with this team, there's going to be a lot of close games. You have to be able to close it out on the ground, and that's why they gave the ball back to Cincinnati and made me sweat again. But they got the job done. Win's a win. A win for both the Bills and the Giants this week. High five. High five. Okay. That's it for Homer Time, Connor. All right, real quick. We got a right or wrong. Just give me all back to back, your rights and your wrongs. Let's hear it.
Was right about Derrick Henry. This is the one that I'm going to sit high on, and I'm just going to hold over your head. Was right about Derrick Henry because we kind of went back and forth about this. And I was kind of right. Kind of right.
Half a star?
Half a star. I wouldn't necessarily say that Tampa Bay and Kansas City was a blowout. But for the most part, we can agree on that game was absolutely dominated by Kansas City for the most part. And I made the hot take saying that Kansas City was going to blow out Tampa Bay. And then we remember we kind of talked about what's a blowout, and we said 10 or more points, or we said more than 10 points.
Rebuttal to that would be is that, yes, it was all Kansas City in the first half, but the second half was mostly all Tampa Bay, and they let them back in it. Kansas City's the last few possessions on offense they had were garbage. I think they just got comfortable.
Well, they didn't have to do anything. They just sat back and they ran the ball. They didn't have to do anything.
I know, but you could try to put the game away. Do we not remember what the Falcons did in the Super Bowl a couple years ago?
Anyway, what I was wrong about was the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong about the outcome of the game. I was wrong about bumping them last week. Everything went wrong for them. They got absolutely wrecked. Jacobs was a non-factor. Carr looked bad. Defense was atrocious. I said if you were a Vegas fan not to panic last week, but I think it might be time to panic a little bit now. So was wrong about that. And was also wrong in picking the Rams.
Yep. So I'll go. I was basically right with you. I'll admit it. I went out on a limb just to seem cool if I was right about pouncing on Derrick Henry. It was just foolish. Connor said Indy wouldn't. You said that Indy wouldn't slow him down. I think I was just hoping they would. So it wouldn't be a blowout on Indy's home turf and embarrass themselves after a huge overtime win against Green Bay. Like a week ago, like the guy's a machine. You can't stop him. He's probably the best running back in the league. I took a swing and missed. Oh, well. I was also wrong with Connor, with both of us. Boom. We were both way off on the Raiders. Gave him too much praise after the good loss, we called it, to Kansas City. I'm not going too deep into it because you already talked about it, but it was brutal. You come off an impressive 3-point loss to the best team in football. And we fooled ourselves, basically. I think a lot of people did too, but enough to say, fooled enough that, I'm going to say that was, like I said last week, we talked about a good loss. No more good losses anymore. We're throwing that out the window because now they go and do this after what we called a good loss. So Raiders got to figure it out. They won't be in the playoffs. What I was right about. I was right about Jacksonville and Carolina covering this week. These are teams expected to lose week after week, but they compete. I mean, Jacksonville could easily throw in the towel and pray for Jets to win a game so they can get the first pick and go for Trevor Lawrence. But they've battled with Green Bay and Pittsburgh, and they're a 2-point conversion away from going to overtime with Cleveland. Carolina, they have a new coach. They've been without Christian McCaffrey all year, most of the year. And Teddy Bridgewater still has question marks. I mean, he came off a serious injury a few years ago. He's been a backup around the league. But they've still won games. They've won 4 of them. They could have won yesterday if it wasn't for an absolutely botched potential game-winning field goal. And what else I was right about, this is not something we've necessarily talked about in the show, but I was right about New England since training camp. There's no Brady. Things will be different, but it's not going to be a complete disaster, especially with Bill Belichick still there. You bring in Cam Newton, bring some flair to New England that they've never seen before. QB with question marks. Newton's been awful for 2 years. He's been hurt a lot. A lot of young, unproven guys on the roster, very young roster. Will they make the playoffs? Probably not, unless they win out. Will they go 3-2 to end the year and finish 8-8? Yes. And I said 8-8, maybe a possible 9-7 way back in August before we even started the show. So I'm going to give myself credit on the New England thing. I guess we'll see how that rest of the year plays out. But that's it for right or wrong, Connor. Outside of Las Vegas, we weren't that bad other than my stupid take on Derrick Henry. But.
Yeah, it was I think that was probably the biggest shock of the day. I remember just keep looking at the ticker and the score just kept going up and up and up for Atlanta, and then Oakland or Vegas was just sitting there, just had a nice 3 points. Or like sitting there, I'm like, how? I was like, I want to watch to see what's going on, but I don't want to turn off the Bills game. But how?
Yeah,
it's like.
No, it was bad. I watched Josh Jacobs fumbled twice. It was just not good. Derek Carr threw a pick 6. It's just really bad. By the way, though, today Derek Carr had a baby, so congrats to him. Maybe that would be bring good luck to Las Vegas for the rest of the season.
There's a little bit on his mind. He couldn't play to expectations because he had a little bit too much on his mind.
Maybe that's why. But all right.
I will let you start us off. We got one more.
You want me to start off last?
I want you to start it off. Mine's quick. Mine's quick and short. Go ahead.
Last call. There's an old saying from Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. You know that movie, right? Funny.
I plead the fifth. I've never seen it.
Oh, wow. You got to watch it after this. If you ain't first, you're last. That's one of the biggest sayings in there. Now, in this quote, it's pretty simple, Connor. If you don't win, you're last. And that's more of a term for racing, where if you don't cross the finish line first, you're last. It's more applicable to racing than in the NFL with their 32 teams playing 16 games and another 3 to 4 playoff games. But at the same time, there's a line in the sand. In the NFL, that line has been crossed by the New York Jets. And here's why. I understand the narrative of the rebuild. It's a concept that's used over and over, from the pros all the way down to high school. You're not contending for any type of championship. You're probably not even looking at the playoffs. It makes sense. It happens. Everyone at some point has probably been associated with a rebuild. You're rebuilding misfortune, turmoil in an organization, turnover on your roster. That's okay with me. In a rebuild, you use building blocks, short-term goals to improve each and every day to get back to where you once were before. But the New York Jets were a championship caliber team a decade ago. It wasn't that long ago. They beat Tom Brady and the Patriots in the playoffs. They got the AFC title game. But since then, it's been just a mess. It's been a rebuild, but it's been a rebuild that's gone on for far too long. So now we fall into tank mode, a term that I cannot stand. I've talked to you about this before, Connor. Can't stand the tank. I have a problem with this in any league. It's something that promotes losing. It falls under the expectation to lose. It's the expectation to not give it your all. The Jets organization have been eyeing Trevor Lawrence for 2 years now. And now look where it's gotten. A season that's unbearable to watch. This is a team that went out on Sunday, lost to a division game to Miami by 17 points. It's a game where their former future of the franchise doesn't even look like he wants to play anymore. And a coach who doesn't seem to care at all. His future with New York is over, and it's over after the season. It doesn't even seem like he cares. Where's the heart? Where's the desire to play a game that everyone on that field loves to play? I can tell you this. The Jacksonville Jaguars have heart. The Cincinnati Bengals have heart. The Carolina Panthers have heart. These are teams where organization is expecting a failed season, but you know what? The players and coaches don't want to lose. Nobody on the Jets wants to win anymore. Sam Darnold knows he will be replaced in 4 months. Why would you go? What is the incentive to go out there right now? And you're getting ripped each and every day. It's kind of like the Carson Wentz thing in Philadelphia. You think he's going to give everything he's got for a team in a city that's given up on him probably last year? It's crazy to me. Like, the whole thing is absurd. If you're really that bad, go at least give some effort. Try to win a couple games. There are other bad teams in this league too. Not every team's going to have a winning record. If you're really that bad, there's no hope. You still only win a few games. You still get a top pick in the draft. You see, the teams that tank for one player, look what happened to the Bengals this year. They tanked for Joe Burrow, probably one of the greatest single-season college years ever. Great player. But this past weekend, 2 weeks ago, Joe ruined almost every part in his knee. He's done for the year, and he may need time to recover for next season. So now you have lost another entire season in the tank, the rebuild. Maybe more, because if you don't try to win, you don't try to build some sort of winning mentality or winning culture. And now you put all of your marbles into a 20-year-old Trevor Lawrence in the most pressured city in America, New York. The kid has an all-time talent, but what if he folds? What if he doesn't want to play in New York because they tried to lose? I'll say it again. Eli Manning completely shot down going to the Chargers back in 2004. That's why there was a trade made. You are now set back year after year. You build a culture, you build a family, and you don't tank. Look at the Miami Dolphins. Look at the Carolina Panthers. And for God's sakes, look at the team you share a building with, the New York Giants. They could tank, but they're not. They're 4-7. They're going to win a division and still get a good pick in the draft and build on it, a year where everyone counted them out. Last call.
Did you just make
so long, Connor? I had to get it off my chest. I don't like it.
Did you just make the bold claim that the Giants are going to win the division? You just made the bold take. You said that.
I think that was subconsciously.
You said that the Giants are going to win the division.
But here, I think subconsciously I did. Right now, I think the front runner is the Washington football team, only because of their performance this past Thanksgiving. I think they can. I'm not saying they're going to. I think there's a hope inside of me, that little kid inside that cried for New York Giants football when I was a kid. I think it's coming back because there's some hope that they might go to the playoffs. I don't know. I'm not going to come out and say that.
The kid that I still saw cry following a Giants loss like 4 years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't stop. But those are those are angry tears.
When Jake Elliott hit like a 63-yard field goal as time expired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That even makes me even more mad, because this is why I'm so mad at the Eagles organization, because when they bring Carson Wentz in and he's a stud, and I'm like, I'm going to have to deal with this guy, and the Giants are never going to win anymore because he's going to be here for 15 years. Now they do this to him. So I'm not a fan of the Eagles right now. I'm not a fan of the New York Jets right now.
But I like it. I mean, I'm with you there. I mean, but like I said, my argument for this is if there was no such thing as tanking, there'd be no such thing as this sweet boy. So, Mr. Jack.
How has that been working out for the Sabres?
Well, it got Taylor Hall to Buffalo.
They also got the top pick a year or two ago down.
I mean, if we play hockey this year, I think this might actually finally be the year that they get over the hump. But again, I've been saying this for the last, ever since Jack Eichel arrived in Buffalo. But anyway, mine. If you've been with us since the beginning of the reinstatement of this fine program, thank you. And you're about to listen to the conclusion of the Brady rant.
A three-part series called the Brady rant by Connor Priester.
Part 3.
Is it really the final part, though? We'll see. Stay tuned.
There might be a little extra if something happens. But anyway, rejoice. Brady shook hands with Mahomes following the loss. However, I said that if he didn't, that the media would be all over it. And the media was actually talking about it as the game was going on. You sent me a tweet from Colin Cowherd about him talking about hypothetically if he didn't. And it's like, it's good to know that other people are looking at this and other people would have been all over him for it. Mm-hmm. But again, we talked about whether he would or not, but I said maybe there was a possibility of the 2 times he didn't, that there might have been a COVID concern, but all that is out the window because as you see all the other players masked up going to midfield, he's not wearing a mask. You you can't use COVID as an excuse now. It wasn't that. But the rant is short. It still bothers me wholeheartedly that one of the best to ever do it, one of the most respected by his peers, still can have the nerve to take a tough loss and be a poor sport about it. He's supposed to be a role model. He's supposed to be a guy that everyone's supposed to look up to. One of those guys that's supposed to be an honor of meeting within the league. This never should have been a topic of discussion ever, because I've said it before, and it's just something you do. It's something you do. It no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to talk about this again. I shouldn't have to talk about this again. I hope I don't have to talk about it again, but we'll see. Last call.
I hope you don't either. I want to bring your blood pressure down a little bit. I just want you to calm down, take a nice sip of that water. Hey, the Bills are 8-3.
Bills are 8-3. Tom Brady is no longer in the AFC East, but still
things are good right now.
Still giving me headaches.
I know I didn't get a chance to look and see if we've had any comments or questions today. It looks like we did not get any. We got some comments. No questions for us today, though. But we'll be back and running later this week, Connor. I hope we get on Friday, hopefully. We'll see if we can bring someone else on. Thank you to Kyle Powell for joining us, talking some bird chat, talk some Bills as well. If you're a college football fan, I know Connor's not into college football that much, but breaking news: Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, the top four for the college football rankings heading in. That's going to be crazy because all these teams have different amount of games played. But that's that. Tune in tomorrow. We got an afternoon football game. It's going to be on at lunchtime here in the West Coast, 12:40, I believe. 3:40 Eastern time, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. That game rescheduled now for the third time. Enjoy some NFL, more Week 12. But we'll be back later this week. Right, Connor?
Absolutely.
All right. Stay tuned. Probably Friday or Saturday. Stay in the loop with Beyond the Box Score. Subscribe on Facebook. Have a beautiful night.